We finally load into our first gameplay segment of Halo 2. Master Guns walks you through the movement tutorial, and sadly, he's lost all of his fancy pouches from the cutscene. Apparently, that amount of pouch customization was lost with Reach. Anyway, coming back to the tutorial, it's a copy-paste of Halo CE's armor testing, which allows players to get back into the feel of Halo from Combat Evolved. Master Gun shows you that your shields recharge a lot faster, which comforts the player as their health bar is gone from the previous game. Johnson enters from the elevator dressed in a military dress uniform. We don't know what's being celebrated, but we are certainly attending as we are accompanying Johnson. Master Guns then asks a very important question to Johnson as you enter the elevator.
So, Johnson, when you gonna tell me how you made it back home in one piece?
Sorry, Guns. It's classified.
My ass! Well, you can forget about those adjustments to your A2 scope.
This question being posed was probably in the heads of multiple fans as they had either seen the legendary ending of Johnson being blown to smithereens, or they had at least put together the Dust and Echoes quote. Johnson then expands on the idea that you're going to a very formal event with the invitation quote. The game is beating you over the head with the fact that you're going to a formal event. It's screaming, "Please pay attention." Leaving the elevator, you enter a tram and get a tour of the station you're currently on, as well as her sister stations, the Athens and the Malta. I'll leave this sequence to speak for itself because it's just a great exposition dump.
Now look, the Cairo is just one of 300 geosync platforms. That Mac gun can put a round clean through a Covenant capital ship. Coordinated fire from the Athens and the Malta, nothing's getting past this battle cluster in one piece. Ships have been arriving all morning. Nobody's saying much, but I'll bet something big's about to happen.
You step out of the tram towards clapping Marines and are met with another cutscene. I know if you aren't a lore nerd like I am, you'd definitely be groaning at this point. In this cutscene, we spell out the perfect beginning to a Halo game.
You told me there wouldn't be any cameras.
And you told me you were gonna wear something nice. Folks need heroes, Chief, to give them hope. So smile, would you? Well, we still got something to smile about.
Thel is being escorted by Tartarus and his brutes past every member of the Covenant we have seen so far. As Thel passes the crowd, a trio of grunts chant, showing that even the lowest class of life in this society has a stance above someone accused of heresy. The camera pans over a large amphitheater with a roaring crowd, waiting to see an execution. The setup of this scene wants to make sure you subconsciously associate the Covenant with a medieval feudal system. If we freeze frame a couple of these shots and piece in all the facts we know together, we can see it as such. There's a very clear feudal class system, with the prophets being a mix of the Pope and King, the Sanshayum and Sanghili counselors being clergy and nobles alike, and even the lower classes filling in from knights to common peasants. The entire community has come to witness this execution spectacle, which has a very dated feel to it, and even High Charity's plasma lighting is stained glass window-esque. If you didn't see it at first, don't worry, I found this while editing the video and I thought it was pretty important to add in. So anyway, back to moving objects. Thel is cuffed to 2 energy restraints and has his first personal dialogue with Tartarus. Tartarus is focused on the crowd Thel has drawn, and if Thel will be able to withhold his cries for mercy during the electric shock. This characterizes the brutes quite nicely as a species bent on power, which separates them from the elites. Thel helps develop this thought by responding that he will make sure not to beg for mercy or forgiveness during this ordeal. This reminds the audience that once again the Sanghili and Jiralhani are very different and foreshadows that fighting them should play very differently. Thel is shocked by his restraints and the scene shifts back to humanity. The mood is a lot lighter in this scene as Chief and Johnson meet Lord Hood. As a side note, here's the first celebrity character we see in Halo 2. This is a huge thing to point out. Halo Combat Evolved was a side project game. They weren't even sure if the demo was going to work correctly. Halo 2 is Microsoft's flagship. Ron Perlman, who plays Hellboy and is Slade in Teen Titans, is here to work in Halo as a major character. There is a lot of money that went into this game, and we are going to receive the benefits of what that money reaped.
Gentlemen, we're lucky to have you back.
Cortana notifies Hood that unaccounted slipspace whisters have been popping up, which is clearly alarming for Hood, enough to skip over a lot of the ceremonial ambiance that comes with receiving an award. To FPS fans, this is probably a relief since there's been almost 6 minutes of cutscene already. More comedy is provided from the Johnson Chief duo to remind fans still mulling over Thel's execution that this is also a fun and cheery game.
You look nice.
Thank you.
Sergeant Major, the Colonial Cross is awarded for acts of singular daring and devotion for a soldier of the United
Johnson is awarded the first medal and the scene shifts back. Get used to it, it's gonna happen again. Thel stands propped up by his wrist shackles while Tartarus is mid-speech. You wouldn't usually see the executioner giving the speech on why not to commit the crime at the execution, as that is safe for someone in a high position of power. With Tartarus giving this speech, we know that this is a personal matter to Tartarus, and he wants to see it through himself, rather than just have a lackey do it. Tartarus also mentions breaking the Covenant, which reaffirms that there is some bond that holds these aliens together. One we can kind of picture, but definitely not fully. Thel has his armor ripped away by the brute guards as the scene shifts back to Miranda Keyes stepping forward. She receives her father's Medal of Bravery and in turn places herself as a very important character to come, due to her lineage.
with the highest traditions of military service. His bravery in the face of impossible odds reflects great credit upon himself and the U.S.
Now this is only portrayed in the remaster, but Miranda holds back tears and clears her throat, which is beautiful visual storytelling, compared to the very blank face she originally had. That's probably due to some engine limitations or just time running out, but I'm really glad that they added that in. Thel's helmet falls to the floor, and from the floor raises a very brutal, pun intended, branding iron that does not seem to fall in line with Covenant aesthetic. This is the game beating you over the head. Brutes are not the same as elites. They will not be a cookie-cutter enemy. Tartarus walks towards Thel in a beautiful shot and presses the brand into Thel's skin. Before we continue, there's a reason I'm showing both classic and remastered gameplay in this video other than giving me more time to talk. In the classic version of the shot, Thel's wrist restraints are now placed a lot higher. Even looking back at classic, we can see that they've been moved by a pretty large margin. They are moved for one specific reason. This is supposed to look like the crucifixion. Please don't yell at me in the comments about taking this analysis too far. There will be a video dedicated to Thel as a Christ-like character later on, and, you can dump your comments there. But please just know that they didn't mess up the model placement. There's too much money behind this game. Thel's body is in that position for a reason. A reason Blur overlooked, but I didn't, and I wanted to point it out. Also, Blur cuts the scene right before we see this hingehead spread his mouth, which is a huge mistake. Just look at those mandibles. And now we're back to the pretty graphics, but the situation doesn't look it anymore. Alarms are blaring in the Cairo. Cortana alerts you that there's been a slip space ruptures near your station. Surprise, surprise, it's the Covenant, baby, and there's a bunch of them. Fleet Admiral Harper is ready to fight them off with 7 more Pillar of Autumns than you had at Installation 04, and a bunch of frigates. But Hood knows not to take the bait and orders Harper to defend the Max instead. We learn Commander Keyes has a ship, and that Cortana is able to control the station at her will. Hood gives us another very important exposition dump about Planet Reach, but it is very important that we know the significantly smaller size of the fleet. We learn that boarding craft have been sent towards the stations and will set the scene for the first mission. You can literally see the swarm approaching you. Lord Hood dismisses Chief and Johnson to defend the station. Chief delivers his iconic one-liner.
Yes, sir. I need a weapon.
Right this way.
And then they walk away under the visuals of many ships flying into defensive formation. And look where we are, guys. It only took us an episode and a half, but we're finally into the gameplay of Halo 2. We can see Miranda Keyes using the tram to get to her ship. Small details like this help move the game along. Moving forward, the game begs you to try out this new dual-wielding feature by including a plethora of weapons to choose from.
They're latched. Check your targets, watch the crossfire. They're in standard formation. Little bastards up front, big ones in back.
You can watch the boarding craft dock with the station and hear as they tear their way through. Cairo Station sets itself apart from Pillar of Autumn. This isn't a losing battle, and there isn't the urge to escape. Your focus is to clear. In contrast to the Pillar of Autumn, the Marines have held down areas and are even in better positions than the Covenant. We move into one of the greenery areas. The planters here provide a real subtle beauty, and it looks like a place you'd want to be stationed. I may be a little bit biased against this because this really reminds me of home with all these plants just, being from the SoCal area. But anyway, the lack of explosions in every corridor help relax the player, and you are allowed to take this clear slow. The easygoing vibes don't stay long though. The pace picks up when you enter the first hangar and have to fend off boarding parties. After clearing this group, you see a Marine alert you that the Malta has already successfully won its defense.
I don't believe it! They're retreating! We won!
You check to look out the window and it explodes. A gigantic station, just like the one you're on, exploded immediately. This adds urgency to the situation as the doors explode behind you, revealing more enemies hungry for blood. You fight your way through a second hangar and find that the Athens will soon reveal its fate as well. Cortana assesses that there are bombs being dropped on board, and now your mission has changed from clearing to finding a bomb.
Cortana, assessment.
That explosion came from inside the Athens, same as the Malta. The Covenant must have brought something with them. A bomb.
Then they sure as hell brought one here. Chief, find it.
Taking a shortcut through an underbelly, you are unluckily too slow to save Master Guns, who fails to fend off two elites. The mood changes in this area. In the previous sections, there were Marines fighting off the Covenant, but this outer area is filled with Covenant. This feels more hopeless than before. Clearing through the Covenant-dominated block, you find Miranda Keyes and Johnson fighting to get aboard their ship. You help them out and find that you also need to head outside. Fighting through a group of elite rangers, we can take a moment to appreciate the beauty of the visuals the remastering team provided.
Yes, but I'll need the Chief's help to make contact with the detonator.
Chief, get to the bomb, double time. Cortana, prioritize targets and fire at will.
We come back inside and get another perfect example of introducing a new enemy. You enter a new room with some Marines who aren't in any particular trouble. Cortana takes the Mac gun and the music shifts into a horrific shriek. Suddenly, your area is filled with new flying bugs. They're not even giving a name at this point and aren't explained, making you have to figure out everything about them. Although they're very weak, they destroy your shields with concentrated fire, making them a unique and deadly enemy.
Hey! Hey, I got one!
Jumping onto the elevator and clearing enemies gains us access to another outside section. This area is unique as you are fighting on top of the firing mechanism for the Mac cannon. While more rangers fire at you to ruin your day, a ship passes by the station, completely ignoring the fight. Cortana notifies you of this and tells you they're heading to Earth. This increases urgency as you can't do much to save Earth when you're stuck on a station.
The first carrier completely ignored us, sir. Blew through the Malta's debris field and headed straight for Earth.
After clearing the Rangers, you step into an elevator and Cortana notifies you the last area will be crawling with elites. As you fight through this epic fight, you can see another carrier pass by the station. If the death machine looking bomb didn't scare you, a second gigantic ship heading to Earth should. The song even changes in this room to Impart, a score that utilizes the slow singing of the usual Halo tracks, but adds a drum that simulates a fast heartbeat. This room screams urgency, and you need to defuse that bomb. The cutscene continues this urgency, and you barely stop the countdown before the Halo franchise ended early.
How much time was left?
You don't want to know.
Cairo, this is an
Keyes and Johnson radio in that they want to fight the carrier that made it to Earth, but they're halted by Hood. Chief cuts in and delivers yet another memorable quote.
Sir, permission to leave the station.
For what purpose, Master Chief?
To give the Covenant back their bomb.
Permission granted.
The player watches in awe as Chief drags this heavy explosive hunk of metal through the station and readies it in a hangar.
I know what you're thinking, and it's crazy.
So, stay here.
Unfortunately for us both, I like crazy. Just one question. What if you miss?
I won't.
Chief opens the door and flies out with the bomb. Now, I don't need to explain why this cutscene is remembered so well and why it holds up with fans today, but we can look at the visuals as Chief falls. During his plummet, we see an Autumn-style ship get hit by a beam of plasma and completely break apart into pieces. We know the UNSC is outmatched, but if it's this bad, then we are really on the ropes. Longsword fighters, like the one you escaped Installation 04 on, blow through the carrier's hull, allowing you to enter the interior of the ship. We are met with a beautiful shot of the interior of a Covenant carrier. The glowing energy core, lighting the purple Covenant aesthetic, paints a nice picture, but it also shows how small Chief is in comparison, playing into the hope aspect when he blows this thing to pieces. Chief activates the bomb and flies out as the carrier explodes, landing on Miranda's ship. Johnson adds his comic relief, and the in amber clad heads to Earth to track down that carrier.
For a brick, he flew pretty good.
Chief, get inside. Gear up.
We're taking this fight to the surface.
And that's Cairo Station. The cutscenes in that section are just way better than the mission itself, and they explain so much, and it's such important exposition that I couldn't skip it. But I'm really glad that we've moved past Cairo Station and we're able to get into the next episode, which will be Outskirts. Because that actually has the mission is just such an important part of the story. It's not just a filler mission at all. There's a lot of things to do in it. I'm going to have a real fun time explaining the mission. We're not going to fast forward through everything through it. And yeah, I'm just really pumped to do that. I've already recorded it, as you can see some of the footage right here. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Share this video with people. I know it's a very different kind of series. I wanted to make these videos because nobody else has. And, I've always been very, interested in what the writers have to say about things. So if you have someone who else is just, interested in this topic, then please share this video with them. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. I know it was long. Outskirts is going to be a lot shorter because Outskirts is just a shorter mission. And I'll see you in the next one.